Hey guys, so I said I would make a video and I wanted to stick to that. So this is me just going over some of your homework problems from our lesson on quadratic inequalities. So the idea is this: you want to start by factoring the quadratic, and we basically start this the same way that we would start solving a quadratic. So let's see, 16 is 8 times 2. And if I have a negative 8 and a positive 2 and I add those together, then I get a negative 6. So this is my factoring, x minus 8, x plus 2. Now if I were to solve this, I would get x equals 8 and x equals negative 2. Those are not the solutions. Those are what's called critical values. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a number line. I don't know why I put negative 2. I think it's because I was looking at this. Oh my goodness. Number lines go from negative infinity to positive infinity. And so I wanted to just put that on the number line so I can remember that when I'm writing my answer in interval notation if I need it. So I'm going to put both of my numbers on the number line, negative 2 and 8. Those are my critical values. So all that means for me right now is that they go on the number line. And 2 critical values is going to create 3 intervals. So there's one interval here, there's another interval in the middle, and then of course there's one last interval outside. And essentially what's going to happen, guys, is there is going to be a parabola. And the parabola might look like this, meaning the zeros are negative 2 and 8, or the x-intercepts are negative 2 and 8. And the parabola might dip below the x-axis in between. It might go above the x-axis in between. And there's ways to know that just by looking at the equation, but we can use the graph to help. But the easiest way to figure out where this function is positive and where it's negative is by just plugging in numbers. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be picking random numbers to plug in to this inequality. So for example, in this red interval, if I pick a number like negative 10, and plug it in, what do I get? Do I get a positive answer or do I get a negative answer? Well, if I plug in negative 10 here, negative 10 minus 8 is going to be a negative number. Negative 10 plus 2 is going to be another negative number, and when I multiply those together, negative times negative is actually positive. So this interval is actually going to be positive. No matter what number I plug in to that interval, I'm going to get a positive solution. Now if I pick a number between negative 2 and 8 in the orange interval, like 0, and plug it in, let's see what happens. 0 minus 8 is negative, and 0 plus 2 is positive. Well, when I multiply a negative times a positive, I get a negative. So this part of the function, no matter what number I plug in, is going to come out negative. And then last but not least, if I plug in a number bigger than 8, something like 10, let's see, 10 minus 8 is a positive number, it's 2, and 10 plus 2 is another positive, and a positive times a positive is positive. So I have intervals that go positive, negative, positive, and what I want is going to be the positive intervals, and the reason I want the positive intervals is because I want the intervals that are greater than 0, which are the positive intervals. So what we wanted was where this function is positive, okay? Now, these numbers are not inclusive, which means they get parentheses. They are not inclusive because there is no underline underneath the inequality symbol. So I have 2 intervals as my answer. I have this first interval, which goes from negative infinity to negative 2. And the negative 2 is not inclusive. I have a second interval, so I put a union symbol, and my second interval is from 8 to infinity. The 8 is also not inclusive, and so this is my answer. So then we get into something a little bit more complicated, like on number 13 of your homework. Your problem might have been a little bit different. That's okay. Now this one, yeah, I can see why this one would be hard. I didn't go over one like this in class, and I won't give you one like this on a test, so I wouldn't freak out, but let me explain how you would do this. You cannot pull out a GCF to factor this, so a lot of students might have felt stuck factoring. However, you can, since there's 4 terms, you can factor by grouping. So if I group the first 2 together, I can pull out an x squared, and I'm left with an x plus 4. And with the second 2, if I pull out a -4, I'm left with x plus 4, which means this factors to x squared minus 4 x plus 4. Okay, so all I did was take the outside pieces and put them together, and the inside pieces are one factor. But this keeps going. So x plus 2, x minus 2 from this part, and then x plus 4, which means I have 3 critical values. X equals -2, +2, and -4. So let's make our number line. We've got a -4, we've got a -2, and we've got a +2. Okay, so this creates 1, 2, 3, 4 intervals. We've got to test them. And just to reiterate, this time my numbers are going to be inclusive because there is an underlined, and I'm still looking for positive intervals because it's greater than 0. So these are inclusive, so we will have brackets in our answers. Okay, so let's just quickly plug and chug. We are plugging in to this formula to figure out if we are going to have a positive or negative interval. So pick a number in the orange, which is going to be like -10, and plug in. -10 plus 2 is going to be negative. -10 minus 2 is negative. -10 plus 4 is negative. Negative times negative is positive, times another negative, though, will be negative. In the red, plug in something like -3. -3 plus 2 is negative. -3 minus 2 is negative. -3 plus 4 is positive. Okay, so negative times negative is positive, times positive is another positive. In between -2 and 2 is 0, so we get 0 plus 2, positive. 0 minus 2, negative. 0 plus 4, positive. Positive times negative is negative, times positive goes back to negative. So that's a negative interval, and last but not least, pick a number bigger than 2, maybe like 10. 10 plus 2 is positive. 10 minus 2 is positive. 10 plus 4 is positive. Positive times positive times positive is positive. Oh boy, what did I want? I wanted the positive intervals. So -4 to -2, and 2 to infinity. -4 to -2, 2 to infinity. The numbers are all inclusive with brackets, so answer choice B was my answer here. All right, so hopefully that makes a little bit more sense and is helpful to look back at. But as always, practice is going to be key for this. Thanks, guys.